So we're gonna see a side-by-side of like Avowed and Oblivion, and I'm gonna see what people are all up in arms about. All right. All right. Let's see. Have any of you guys ever done this in games? You shoot the arrow up and you like rely on them landing to do like meme stuff.
I'm listening. Go ahead.
I saw Irene metric recently.
Okay, we got arrow physics. Yeah. This has kind of been going around lately, so I'm very curious what people are talking about. I mean, there's no need to do that. There's no arrows, it's just hit scan. Here's another thing. So there's no ammo, really, in Avowed. Like, there's no ammo types and stuff like that. I don't think. And you don't, like, pick up stuff. You know, like, you don't run out of arrows, you don't run out of bullets or whatever. How do you guys feel about that? I do not care. So, like, this doesn't really bother me. This was just, like, a decision they made. I understand maybe if you want, like, different arrow customizations, like flame arrows, different stuff like that. But if you're not going to do it, like, I don't know, I don't care. You know what I mean? This isn't a gotcha to me, you know?
I'm listening.
Okay, let's see. Prop physics. This is pretty basic. Theoretically, this should be in here. Oh! You know, I didn't really notice that, so it's all hard baked in. How do I feel about that? Do I care? Actually, this is an interesting conversation. Would you think it's more immersive that you can knock stuff down or less? Because, hear me out. On one hand, yeah, you feel like that should happen. It's less immersive that they don't react. But on the other hand, has anyone else ever found it, like, goofy? You know, like, you're all, like, everybody's sitting at a table. You jump on the table, you knock all of the you know, the plates over and the glasses and everything reacts and stuff like that, and nobody says anything. You know what I mean? Like, this is fine. Like, some maniac is just running through your house, clobbering things all over the place. I understand it's nice to have that activity, but now that I think about it, at the same time, there are a lot of moments where that really pulls me out, you know? So, I posit this question to the audience, because I'm kind of torn. Would you guys rather have interactable physics, or do you think the goofiness of the situations that result in it kind of like hurt the immersion, I guess? I don't know. It's an interesting question, because you think that like you should have it, but honestly, sometimes it is really silly. So it's tough to say. Very curious what people think about that. It is something that we're pretty accustomed to at this point, though. It is a little surprising, although I think more story-based narratives, like, I think Dishonored and stuff, you can't talk stuff. I don't think. You see, like, not being able to do that, I feel like is somehow less goofy than going up to the bar and slapping everything off the table. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question. I guess I would like it too. I'd rather have it, but it's not a deal breaker for me.
Let's get this.
I think the bigger factor isn't necessarily the knocking stuff over. It's that I can't interact with it. Like in a Skyrim, you can pick up anything, even if it's worthless. In this game, it's like, oh, here's the one item you can very obviously pick up, and then everything else is non-interactable. And I think that actually pulls me out of it, right? Yeah, that's like, because like in Avowed, right? If we go back to like, you see, there's like a glowing bottle and then nonsense, but it's like, That's weird. You know what I mean? It feels very like video game, you know? I feel like if you could just interact with all of this stuff and this was a little more obvious what it was, I'd rather that. Yeah. So like I feel like I don't care if there's physics, but to be unable to interact with most items and only the one item in the general area and everything else be static is kind of like not ideal, in my opinion. Because again, having nothing here, all these little items on the ground and you can't interact with anything, that's kind of like, eh. Guards versus hostile NPCs. This is interesting. I heard that there really isn't any guard interaction in... Oh, I see. So bandits are chasing you and the guards, like, fight and interact. Like, the NPCs interact with each other.
Something to report?
Yeah, no, I agree. Oh. Oh, wow. Yeah, there's literally, like, a rebel fighter and nobody's interacting. Okay, yeah, that's kind of crazy. That's really bad, actually. Yeah. Yeah, that's really bad. And, what is going on with the pathing and stuff, too? That's pretty rough. I love this guy just, like, chilling, like he doesn't care. Yeah, the non-interactability of, like, aggroing NPCs and stuff, that's not great. Lazy parodies militia. Yeah, no kidding. Laziest guard I've ever seen in my life. He does not care. He's like, oh, whatever, dude. Not my business. Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, this is a very valid criticism for sure. Yeah, this is absurd. None of the people care at all. If you're gonna have NPCs like this, don't have enemies in the world. This is like completely immersive. It's almost because you can't interact with the items and the NPCs are interacting, it kind of feels like wood. You know what I mean? Like you're in a wooden set. Right? Like everything's glued to the ground, including the people. Just keep watching gets worse. Yeah, that's rough. I don't like that. Which is funny because I was playing early game Avowed and I was loving it. But it was early impression, right?
Is that so?
I imagine these things weighing you
You
out for a
better
while.
find some quarrel real fast.
Only in the scripted moments. Okay, so we got some guards here. Okay. Avowed versus wood and stone. Okay. I wonder where this is going. What's the difference here? Okay. They're in there. Yeah. Makes sense. Oh, okay. Like different materials impact the arrows in different ways. Okay. Oh, that's really weird. So they do it, but it's like they don't commit. They do this weird like halfway. No, what about other stone, not just geometry? Maybe that's just weird. Okay, it goes into the ground. So there's no differentiation. I thought, like, this is small. It's honestly a detail I never really thought about. I respect that they did. Yeah, it's uneven. Yeah, it's very strange. The non-interactability of the set and environment is a bit weird. Again, wall. Okay, it's in the wall too. Okay. Stealing items in plain sight.
Somebody.
Somebody.
Treacherous little filcher.
Somebody.
Oh,
Wait a minute.
thief! You won't get away with this. Stop! Thief! Put that back, you worthless thief!
It's all over,
Okay.
lawbreaker.
Oh, and
Your
he summons the
spree is at
guards.
an end.
Okay, that's cool.
I'll take any stolen goods you have. The next move.
Little
is
janky, but I mean,
yours.
it's
You're
2006.
fine, or I'll haul you away.
Bethesda never really made this not look janky, but
Then
You
pay
know.
with your blood.
it's a nice system. It's nice that it exists, right? Yeah, I was laughing about this. At the beginning of the game, I walked up to a guy in, like, the bar, and I stole the chicken off his plate. And he was like, chill with it.
If you're in good shape and not wearing a tin suit.
It is funny.
So I've heard.
It's a weird decision. I don't know why they did that.
Stop right there, criminal scum. Nobody breaks the law in my
I think the
one.
big thing that I'm taking away from this is that Bethesda, kind of like GTA, is really about building like immersive sims that happen to have like a story in them. So like Avowed is going for, it seems like they didn't really prioritize a lot of those elements, right? Like it kind of reminds me of Cyberpunk. You guys remember when like people expected Cyberpunk to be like GTA and it like really, really wasn't? Because it was more of like, 1 second. Oh. The police. Sorry, for some reason... Oh, maybe I turned it... Oh, there we go. Okay, that's better. My audio was like a little low, and I was working really hard to make it sound okay. Okay. Let me turn up the volume, too. What was that? Oh, yeah, so it reminds me of Cyberpunk 2077, right? Where, like... the problem was with that, everybody expected it to be GTA. It did not turn out to be GTA. It didn't have like the immersive guard system really. Like that was my biggest critique of it, was like the police system was like really garbage. Still is, I think. I don't think they ever really fixed it. A little bit, but not really. You know, like immersive transit and all this stuff, all this world building stuff. They did okay with it, but it's not what we hoped, right? It was more focused on the core narrative in the central story. It had some side objectives and stuff like that, but the sim elements were kind of lacking, right? It kind of reminds me of that, actually. Except like the Bethesda game version. Now the question is that bad or not? Or is this just like a failure of expectations?
Gods will make them pay.
This is kind of weird, yeah. I think the guard one is so
It's
bad,
all
though.
over, lawbreaker. Your spree is at an end.
Because I think this just isn't... It isn't this kind of game. You know what I mean? Like... Is, I think, kind of what happened. I don't know if they wanted this to be the case, but there's no, like, loot system. There's no thieving system at all. There's no reactivity, really. You can argue whether you want that or not. I guess you would. It's just interesting that they didn't even... Because it's not like, oh, it's not working. There just is none. But why would you put items that you could take that belong to people at all and not just put them in loot chests or something? You know what I mean? It's just weird. Like, why would you give people this option if there's not going to be a system around it? You steal from... Yeah.
Haven't you adherents taken enough?
That's messed up, man. I like that there's no consequences either.
This is your last warning. Get out, or I'll call the guards and have you arrested.
Okay.
Stop right there, criminal scum.
Stop right there, criminal scum. Yeah.
Right. You are aware I can see you digging through my things, aren't you?
That's interesting that... So they have the system because people are reacting to it, but there's no consequences. Like, the NPCs don't react or do anything. There's no, like... It almost seems to me like there's no... what would you call it? Like an aggro system? Because, like, the guards... There's no dynamic system with the NPCs. Almost like they're not NPCs. Like... How do I explain this? The guards are like set dressing. They're not like, you can't attack them. They don't attack. They don't move. They don't really interact. They're like a static they're basically like a rock. You know what I mean? So like, I'm a game developer, right? So I have a little bit of insight in this. So like, you have like NPC agents which do their own thing. They have their own health and their own stats and stuff like that. And then you have like objects in the world that you can, you know, like a door. So they're like doors, basically. You can go up to them, you can press E to interact, but it doesn't do anything else. There's no stats on them. They can't move, stuff like that. They're just like animated bricks, basically. So there's no system, it's scripted, and the NPCs don't look like they have any dynamic elements to them. They're not actually NPCs moving in space. They're just like visual objects, basically. That's interesting. I guess it's a lot simpler to do, less resource intensive. Maybe that was part of it. Maybe they were having some issues optimizing. It gets even worse. Oh my god. Honestly, that's fine if you want to do that. The biggest problem is the guards not being interactive and having fights that no one in the crowd reacts to. Like, even Baldur's Gate does that. But then again, every character in Baldur's Gate is like a person with stats and stuff. This game decided not to go that direction. I don't really know why. Did Outer Worlds do? Outer Worlds did that, I think. Because you could like attack random people in Outer Worlds, right? I'm pretty sure. I don't remember if there's a thieving system or not. I think there was. So it's like somehow this was like a step back. I wonder why they made that decision. They did, yeah. That's why I remember that. Vaguely. I wonder why they did that. It's like the same engine, sort of. Well, actually, I think this is Unreal Engine, and Outer Worlds is in something else. I think. Outer Worlds might be Unreal 2. I'm not sure. Weird. Very weird choice. Yeah, so they got the immersive lockpicking game, yeah. So it gets worse later. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's no lockpicking thing. I don't really care. Some systems have it, some don't. It's just have enough lockpicks. There's a couple games that do it like this. I kind of like the Outer Worlds system a little bit, because it's a little more detail. Well, this game doesn't even have,
Hello.
what's it called? This game doesn't even have pickpocket at all. Yeah, there's none of that, yeah. Which, you know... Well, again, like we've established, NPCs aren't, like, NPC entities, right? They're just, walking blocks, basically. So, yeah, it makes sense they wouldn't have this.
What do you think?
Again, I don't know why they made that decision, though. That's very strange. Very strange.
Guards, we've got a pickpocket here.
Yeah. Reminds me of Cyberpunk. You can't pickpocket in Cyberpunk either, I don't think.
Nobody breaks the law in my
Like, they're just kind of people walking around. And you can't really interact with them very much either. Very similar in that regard. I think it's a similar situation that both CD Projekt Red and Obsidian are more like
The three brothers a couple
story
of days ago.
focused.
Not sure which one I talked to.
All three of them are nice folks.
So I've heard.
Huh. Oh, that's just so weird, though. They're so stiff. I mean, that happens in games, but... Oh my god, just the way people are standing around and stuff's really weird.
Hello.
What's going on with you?
They say syndicates of wizards have...
Yeah, like,
boycott
you know,
Imperial
Oblivion's
goods.
ancient, but they did have this system, which was very revolutionary at the time. Every NPC in Oblivion has their own schedule inventory conversations. Yes. Which was pretty big deal at the time. And not many games do this. Like, GTA has NPC behaviors, organic NPC behaviors. They don't really have inventories. They drop, like, random drops if they die or whatever. And they're pretty interactable. But they don't necessarily have, like... Because they're not named characters. They're just, like, generic whatevers. I think with... like Oblivion, you know, that's a really great technical system. A lot of work goes into that. Very difficult to do. Sort of set the standard, I think. Just, I wonder, like, I've never played The Witcher, funnily enough. I wonder if, like, The Witcher does something like that. Probably, I think so. More so than anything, because again, much like the items, you can't really interact with them either, and that also makes it feel that way, right? This feels very rigid. Like, if I could bump into that guy and be like, hey, what are you doing? You know, that would change it significantly.
I can't believe that Glister would live with that Malintus Ancrus. Shameful.
Or even have, dialogue, for God's sake, right? Like, Baldur's Gate yapping in the background. You know, all of this lore stuff that you're not getting because they're not even talking.
Sarah?
Have you seen the Briants and their dogs?
They're completely different systems, so it's kind of weird to
Everyone likes
compare,
a good dog,
but
they're an odd couple.
I've heard
yeah,
others say the same.
that's
Heard
rough.
any news from the other provinces?
That's rough.
Nothing I'd
Not
like
necessarily because they're different, but because, like, the execution of Avowed is a little lacking, to say the least. Again, oh my god. The fact that these are, like, hard-coded there, too, and there's an error, is really funny. If there was organic movement in them, at least it would, you could say that, but...
Goodbye.
That's funny. There's a Skyrim, too. Might as well watch it. Screw it.
Hello there.
Have you ever thought of joining the Fighters Guild?
I've never really thought about it.
That's really cool, actually. I like that dialogue there.
Are you kidding? Even the High Inquisitor.
Okay, here's some banter.
They know it turned the whole city against
Let me
them.
guess. Scripted.
I'm telling you, that so-called Watcher is a fraud.
But she knew things about me. Things that I didn't even know.
Exactly. She
It's,
made it
it's
all
like,
up.
oh, it's triggered based on if you walk by that spot, then, like, never again. Yeah, well, you know. Again, Avowed's not really that...
You violated the law!
As we've discussed, right? Avowed's not really that game. These characters are basically just wooden tree trunks, right? Which, again, different system. I'm not critical of it. But again, if you're gonna do that, you gotta make them at least move around or something. You know what I mean?
Caught in the act.
Or make it so that you can't, like, aim your bow at them. Some people do that too.
Get your face
You know?
out of my face.
But, like, unloading on them and being able to do melee and stuff like that. And just, you know...
Good afternoon.
It's weird. It's weird. So, like, I guess where I'm settling at right now is you don't have to do the full immersive system, but if you don't, you have to execute it better than what Avowed's doing for sure. Yes, yeah. Yeah, because, like, you know, this is crazy. Because if you ever seen a game where you try to do this and they're non-hostile and you can't, like, bring your gun up or whatever, you, like, hold it down. I feel like that At least it makes it a bit more immersive,
It's
right?
all over, lawbreaker. Your spree is at an end. I'll take any.
But again, it's a baffling decision. I don't know why they didn't do it.
Is yours.
Like,
You're fine.
make them characters as opposed to just objects, basically.
Then pay with your blood.
Either they couldn't optimize and make it work, or it's like it's more work, sure, but like if you have enemy NPCs and stuff, you're like copy pasting basically. You know what I mean? Like instead of like having a rebel, you have a knight there instead, like, and you can interact with them. The only reason I see you wouldn't do that is like performance. But like, I don't know. It's not like games can't do that now. You know what I mean? Like they're doing it in 2006, right? So Oblivion, you can enter almost any building. That's true. That is really nice about it. Interesting. Yeah, I haven't gotten super far into Avowed. The opening area was pretty interactable for the most part. But it's interesting that in the city you can't go into anything. That's crazy. As opposed to like a Baldur's Gate, where you can go into pretty much anything. And then there's, I think there was a few that weren't, but generally speaking, you can go into pretty much anything. Yeah, Oblivion, you can do everything, because it's an immersive sim. But this is interesting. I didn't realize it was this cut off. That's actually kind of crazy. Outer Worlds did this too. Although here's the thing that I would argue is maybe you can't have a... On the small scale, this is true. You can't interact with every building where you can in Oblivion. But what Oblivion does and Bethesda do, that they're very good at, is this town on the left is very small. Like there's maybe 12, 13 buildings in total in the entirety of a large city in Oblivion, Skyrim, whatever. And they assemble them in a Disney-like way to make them feel big. But they're actually really, really small, right? To do that at a much larger scale... Now, I don't know the size of Paradise right now, like where he's running around. I don't know if the scope is much bigger or about the same size. If it's much bigger, I could understand. You're trying to build a big set, almost like Assassin's Creed, right? You can't go into every building in Assassin's Creed. They're trying to... But this is a whole freaking city, right? Like, you know, it's hard to do that. So, you know, it's really just kind of like what you're trying to do. Comparatively, though, it is much nicer to be able to go into everything. But if your goal is to have a whole city realized, it's very difficult to have all interiors. I think this is something you think about more when you're a game developer as opposed to not, right? You can do it. Like, if you really wanted, you could just make them all just generic homes with, like, random NPCs in them, copy-paste and mix up some rooms a bit, you know what I mean? Like, that wouldn't be too crazy. So if people were curious, they could. And then eventually they do it a few times and be like, oh, there's nothing, it's not really worth my time. And then you can just call it a day there, right? But it's really weird. So you still have that immersion factor, but it's not too much extra work. Blaze of Video, there's 3 reasons. Yeah. So, like, what I'm saying is, this city, I'm not sure the size of Paradise, but this city is very small. There's probably, like, 12, 13 buildings in them or something like that. I can show that, actually. Like, if you like Whiterun or something. It's, like, not big. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 houses. 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're looking at like 14, 15, 16, 17 places you can go. Maybe let's say 20, because there's probably stuff I'm missing, you know? So there's 20 interactive buildings in a city that looks like this. So I don't know what Paradise looks like. Paradise notes. Sorry. have to every time. If you can even get a view like that. Oh yeah, I guess you can. So if it's bigger, I understand. Kind of looks like it. It's hard to say. There's not really... It looks bigger here, but the way things are like constructed can be a little elusive sometimes. So like an inner map or something. Here we go. Pretty comparable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, maybe like, I don't know, twice the size, maybe. Something like that. Soda, how's it going? Overall map size, ability. Yeah, I don't really, because like, I'm more so discussing the town, right? Like, in the town, if it's really large, you don't want all the interiors to be there necessarily if you're trying to do something very big. Also, be right back. But in general, yes. Avowed, Oblivion has so much more interactable stuff. Caves, towns, forests, whatever. You know what I mean? You're being eaten by a robot. Oh my god, what are you playing? Oh, so hi, Rocket. Assuming you're even playing anymore. Animal robots do seem to be on the 2025 bingo card at this point. Yeah, 1 second. Okay. Stellaris again? Oh, nice. So, like, I agree, there's a lot more stuff, content interactable. But, like, in talking strictly cities, it is relevant to say, like, if the city's supposed to be super big, depending on what you're trying to do, like, I understand not having them be interactable or not. If not mandatory, honestly. Depending on what you're, again, how big the scope you're talking. So like if this city is that much bigger than a Skyrim city, I understand that decision, but it doesn't look like it is. It looks like it's about twice the size of like a Whiterun. Again, if we back up, maybe. Yeah, so about like twice the size, I would say. If you just strictly look at the map. Maybe even only like Whiterun would be like 2/3 the size, maybe. But it is bigger, but not enough to justify not being able to go into the buildings. So that's the main point I was thinking of to consider. Just close it though. So what we're watching is Avowed versus Oblivion. We might as well watch the Skyrim too. Fuck it. But yeah, it's interesting. And I just wanted to give my perspective because I'm a game developer and stuff too. So how's it going, Soda? So yeah, this is valid criticism. I'm not sure why they did that. It's not big enough to really... You might as well, you know? I could be wrong, but... Okay, so what's going on here? What is the... combat? Okay. So what's the critique here? I'm not sure. Or is it just a comparison? This comparison? Okay. Yeah, I think Avowed like looks nicer animation-wise at least. And I mean, functionally, like combat-wise, it's much more satisfying than Avowed. It is interesting that the NPCs have more interactive behavior, like they put their blade away when you get close and stuff like that. I'm not sure what changing behaviors there are for these guys. I haven't played enough of the combat to really know. Oh, I do like that knockback though. Like when they take a certain amount of damage, they get knocked back, and they have reactive animations. It's certainly like ahead of the Oblivion, but that's nothing to, you know, being better than Oblivion. That's like an ancient game. It's not exactly something to write home about either, you know. 2 levels amazing. How dare you? Yeah, I think people are trying to turn this into like a Concord situation. It's not. Avowed's a good but flawed game. Same thing with like what's it called? Avowed vs Dark Messiah. Are they literally just comparing this to every single game at this point? Avowed versus the Outer Worlds. Attention to detail. This would be very curious. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. And of course, if you guys would like, you can like and subscribe and comment and such. It really helps me out if you've enjoyed the video. I'd really appreciate it. Have a good one. Bye. What am I doing?